Welcome to a new video of Mythos at Midnight, where tonight we will be discussing the legend of Momotaro, the legendary Peach Boy. Before we dive in, remember to like, subscribe, and comment which other legends you would like us to make a video about. Let's dive in. Before swordsmen fought in bright robes and glowing duels on screens, Japan already told of one of its best-known demon-slaying heroes. He was not drawn in ink, but born from a peach. Long before Tanjiro faced Oni in anime, Momotaro walked with a dog, a monkey, and a pheasant to strike at demons in their island home. Yet his tale does not start with battle or weapons. It begins quietly, with a gift carried by gentle water. Tonight we tell his story as it was meant to be heard. A soft beginning, born from simple prayers under the night sky. The story turns first to a home where an old couple lived. They rose with the sun, worked the fields, and ended each day in quiet. Their hut was simple, their meals plain, yet one thing was missing. They had no child. They had wished for one through many years, but none had come. Still, they shared their days side by side, carrying both work and longing with steady hearts. The river near their home marked the rhythm of their world. Water moved as their lives stayed still. Its flow was calm, and its sound was soft, like a song that never ceased. Each season it changed color and light, yet it never stopped. To the couple, the river was more than water. It was a path where heaven and earth might cross. Though they could not know, it was through the river that change would one day arrive. One afternoon, the old woman walked to the water to wash clothes. Her hands dipped into the cool stream, steady in their task. She looked down and saw something large drifting with the current. At first she thought it was a log, but the shape was too round. As it floated closer, sunlight showed its true form. It was a peach, but not a peach of ordinary size. It was broad as a basin, the skin shining pink and gold. The sight made her breath catch. She bent low and reached with care. To draw it near, she spoke words she knew from childhood, an old charm for fruit carried by streams. Distant water, near water. Her voice was calm as she spoke the verse. It was not a spell, but a simple folk chant, meant to call the peach closer. And as if the stream had listened, the great fruit drifted toward her grasp. She pulled it from the river, heavy in her arms, yet glowing as though some light lived inside its skin. Drops of river water fell to the dirt with each step back to the hut. When the old man returned, both stood before the peach in wonder. They had never seen fruit so wide, so bright. Their voices were hushed, unsure what gift nature, or something greater, had set at their door. Together, they decided to open it. Their hands pressed at its sides, and the skin split along a seam. Inside was no pulp, no pit. Instead, a small child lay within. His eyes opened to the light as though waiting for this moment. His first cry was strong, filling the hut with a sound new and strange. The old couple fell still, then wept together. All their years of longing had ended in this single breath. Their home, silent for so long, now held a voice. The river had carried more than a fruit. It had carried an answer. Their nightly wishes had found an ear after all. With tears on their cheeks, they held the baby between them. Joy rose in their hearts, warm and fresh, quick as spring rain on dry earth. The long silence of their home was gone. The man laughed aloud for the first time in years, his voice free of weight. The woman held the child close, the touch both tender and amazed. She pressed her cheek against his skin, and love filled her like fire, gentle yet strong. The great peach was not mere food from the field, no gift of soil or root. It was proof their voices had been heard. From the ache of many years now came light. They had not been forgotten. Where quiet had sat heavy, a newborn cry now lifted the air. Their hut was small, the roof bent low, but in that space the world had changed. This child came not from womb or blood, but from water and fruit. His birth was more than luck. The peach had carried not only the couple's dream, but a spark of purpose, one that reached far beyond their home. The stream rolled on outside their door as it always had, but now its gift had altered the shape of their lives. Within the arms of the old woman, the child stirred, breath steady and sure. They knew at once he was no common child. His coming carried meaning, though what it would grow into they could not yet name. For now, they only held him close, their hearts so full that words could not reach. The peach had carried a prayer, a silent wish placed long ago beneath the night sky. That prayer had now taken form, small yet alive, cradled between two hands that had waited so long. Their days of emptiness were over. Their home breathed with joy, and their hearts moved with hope. But what kind of child could be born this way? Born not from flesh, but from the fruit of a tree and the flow of a river. That question, still gentle and dim, now rested in the air of their hut. It was a question that marked the start of a story not yet told. The boy inside the peach was small when he first opened his eyes. His body was like any infant's, but his cry filled the hut with a sound that seemed strong and whole. The old couple looked at him with joy. They knew at once he was not an ordinary child. He was their son, given in answer to many years of waiting. They named him Momotaro, which means son of the peach. The name spread through the village quickly. Some laughed with joy at its strangeness, while others spoke it with quiet respect. To his parents, the name carried more than wonder. It was proof that their years of longing had not been in vain. Momotaro grew fast. His steps came sooner than they expected. His hands held tools with ease while still young. He ran along the field paths with quick feet, sure in his balance, and his eyes stayed steady and calm. By the time he reached his early teens, he was already taller and stronger than other boys. There was a quiet weight in him, as if he carried more years than he had lived. Life in the hut changed with his growth. The woman laughed as she cooked with his voice filling the room. The man, once slow with age, worked with lighter steps when Momotaro walked beside him. In fields, his shadow stretched long in the sun, and the crops seemed to lean in the soft wind as if even the land knew who he was. Their home, once filled with silence, now carried the sound of running feet, soft songs, and calm words. Yet Momotaro's strength was not only in his arms. His mind was quick, and his words came clear. Where other children boasted, Momotaro spoke with care. Where they quarreled, he stayed calm. He was kind, but firm, and he helped before he was asked. He could sit by the stream for long hours, quiet but watchful, as though listening to the water itself. His parents watched with pride as his body grew strong and his heart stayed steady. The first time the old man stumbled under a heavy load of wood, Momotaro lifted it with ease. His father's eyes filled with both relief and awe. The boy was still young, but his body carried the work of a grown man without wear. In moments like these, the old couple felt the depth of the gift they had been given. Their son was more than a blessing. He was a force of strength and peace in one. The hut, though small, now seemed full of space. No longer was there a hush over their meals or their nights. Their prayers, once weary, were now simple thanks. Each day was bright, not only with the sun, but with the presence of the boy who came to them through the river. The silence of old age had been replaced by steady steps, clear words, and the warmth of family. Years passed, and Momotaro grew into youth. His body was strong from daily work. His mind stayed sharp. The calmness in his eyes never left him. He was not like the others around him, yet he did not stand apart with pride. He shared in the life of the village, but his presence always held something larger, something not easy to name. His parents saw it, and their hearts held both joy and a small weight of worry. For a boy like this could not remain at home forever. Though his laughter still filled the air, there was a strength within him that seemed to reach outward. The couple knew the day would come when his steps would no longer stop at their door. That thought lingered with them, even as they held fast to each moment of peace. As Momotaro grew taller and surer, the world beyond their fields began to seem closer. His voice, calm but firm, often carried the tone of one who thought beyond his years. It was clear that his life would not be bound to the hut, nor even to the small village that knew his name. Something else waited for him, something that would ask more than field work or family care. And so their happiness, though full, was never without a shadow of thought. For what was given through the peach was not meant to remain hidden. Though the old couple held him close, the day was near when he would speak of what he felt he must do. What came next was his first duty: gratitude. Momotaro was about 15 when he spoke to his parents with calm and steady words. He told them the life they had given him was a gift that could never be repaid only with his work in the fields. To him, the right path forward was clear. He would leave and face the Oni who harmed people and stole across the land. The boy, no longer small, stood firm. His arms carried strength, but his heart carried purpose. He said he would travel east to the sea where the Oni lived. To drive them back would be a way to honor his parents. He did not wish only to thank them with words, but to show his thanks with action. The old woman trembled as she heard him. Her voice was soft, asking him to stay. The old man kept silent, his hands clasped tight. Their son had been given to them after so many long years of longing. They could not bear to think of losing him as soon as he was grown. They asked again for him to remain. They spoke of their age, of the silence that might return to the hut if he left. They feared not only the Oni, far away though they were, but also the quiet that might follow when his laughter faded from their rooms. But Momotaro answered with a voice calm and clear. He said that love is not kept by turning away from hard tasks. Love is kept by facing what is heavy, even when it calls him far from home. He told them that to walk out their door was not to abandon them. It was to let their gift of life grow larger, spreading beyond their hut and into the wider world. The old couple fell into silence. They felt the truth in his words, even as sorrow pressed on their hearts. They had prayed for him, and now they saw he was not only a child of their home, but a child born to act with purpose. From the moment he came from fruit, they knew there was meaning in his life. This meaning now stood before them, asking leave to walk the road. The woman held her hands together each night after, hoping she might change his mind. But her hope could not turn him. At last, the old man rose and brought forward food prepared with care. He placed before his son small cakes, shaped with both skill and prayer. They were rice cakes, often called kibi dango in many retellings. People said these cakes gave strength to those who ate them. They were light in weight, but heavy in meaning. The couple pressed them into his hands, and with them, their blessing. Momotaro bowed low. His head touched the floor as he spoke thanks for every day of care given to him. His chest ached to leave, but no fear showed in his face. He tied the bundle of kibidango at his side and lifted his shoulders, ready to carry both food and duty on the path ahead. When he stepped past the door, the hut grew still. The old woman pressed her palms together once more, whispering for his safety. The old man's eyes stayed fixed on the hills beyond, as though watching each step long after he had gone from sight. Their hearts were heavy, but they knew their son did not walk alone. He carried their years, their love, and the voice of their prayers with him. The road was plain dirt, marked with dust and stone. At first he walked alone. The air was mild, and the path bent out of sight one hill at a time. His steps were steady and slow, but each carried the weight of promise. The kibidango lay at his belt, small yet shaping his journey. They were not only food, but a bond with those who had raised him. In time, they would serve as more than nourishment. They would bind others to his side, for the path ahead was not one meant to be walked in complete solitude. Momotaro's gaze stayed forward. The land was wide and the road near endless, but his heart held still. Each sound of wind in the grass felt like the world breathing with him. Though no one yet walked beside him, the path ahead seemed to wait for him with quiet patience. He was no longer only the son of two old people. He was the son of the peach, set apart for a task not given to others. Still, he did not rush. His walk was simple. His eyes stayed calm. No mark of fear or pride moved his step. He knew the danger of Oni, but worry did not weigh him down. He had spoken what he must do, and now his body carried the truth of that choice. He walked on, and the road seemed to open in front of him, as though pushing him toward what was to come. It would not remain an empty walk for long. Others were waiting, though he did not yet know it. The path was about to offer its first test, one that looked sharp and fierce at the start, but would end in a different way. And the first to meet Momotaro was not a man or a demon, but a dog. It stood in the path ahead of him, broad in body and nearly as large as a young colt. Its fur was rough, and its eyes were sharp with challenge. The dog lowered its body close to the ground, breath heavy and slow. Its paws tapped the dirt, and its growl rolled low, warning that the road was not free to pass. Momotaro stopped where he stood. His eyes were steady, his hands still at his side. He did not pick up a stone. He did not raise his voice. He faced the dog with the same calm he had shown since he left his home. The animal gave no welcome. Its body spoke clearer than words. It wished to test him before it would let him pass. The boy reached for the knot at his belt. From the bundle his mother had made, he took a rice cake. It was round, soft, and sweet with millet grain. The gift was not large, but it carried the care of his parents and the prayers that went with him. Holding it steady, he broke the cake in two. He kept one half and raised the other in his hand for the dog to see. His voice came plain and firm. He told the dog that he was Momotaro, born of a peach, walking the road with a true task ahead. He said he was not a child to be chased, nor a traveler to be driven back. He was moving forward, and he was not alone, for his family's blessing and his duty walked with him. The dog must decide if it would block him still, or if it would accept bread instead of anger. The dog's growl hushed. Its ears flicked as the smell of the food reached its nose. The hunger in its eyes softened as it watched the boy. One step forward, then stillness again. Its chest rose fast with quick breath, and then it lowered its head. The sharp glint faded, replaced by a watchful calm. It took the half cake from the boy's hand and chewed slow and sure. Something in that moment changed. The road no longer stood in question. The boy did not beat the dog down. He did not push past it with force. He had shown a strength that was more than muscle. He had shown that he could meet challenge with calm, and that his food, his parents' gift, was not only for himself. The dog walked a circle, tail high now, before it came to stand at the boy's side. It no longer barred the road. A step forward became a step together. The quick click of claws sounded on the ground, no longer a threat, but part of the rhythm of travel. In story, dogs often mean more than guard or beast. For families, they keep watch at night. In tale, they mark faith and loyalty. This moment was both. The boy showed he was fit to lead, and the dog became more than one to test him. It became one to walk beside him. The first rice cake was shared. It was not much, only one split into two, yet it fed more than hunger. The bond that began with a growl closed with trust. A warning bark had turned into a pledge without words. Momotaro looked to the road ahead. At his side now walked his first companion. Alone at first, he now pressed on with fur and fang beside him, a shield and a friend on the way forward. The gift from his parents, the cakes tied at his belt, proved to be more than food to keep his strength. They were the key to gain trust, to build ties that would carry him further than his own step could take him. The sun hung low, and two shadows stretched long across the ground. The boy moved steady, the dog at his heel, both quiet and sure. Wind stirred the grass, and the sound of their steps carried through the air, two lives walking one path now. It was the first bond, simple but true. Still, Momotaro knew the road was long, and this was only the start of his company. More voices waited on the path ahead, some ready to quarrel, some yet to find their place. What would happen when those who did not live in peace were called to walk the same road? That part of the journey was waiting just beyond the next hill. The path soon brought new voices. After the dog had joined, a monkey leapt down from the trees. Its hands were quick, its grin wide, and its eyes full of challenge. From above came a sharp cry. A pheasant swept down, wings spread, chest bright with color. The dog bristled. The monkey bared its teeth. The pheasant's head lifted in pride. These two had never been friends. Not in wood, not in sky. One lived to play tricks and grab with bold hands. The other flew high and looked down with sharp eyes. They had little to share but quarrels. The monkey spoke fast. "I have hands and wit. I can climb and strike. Let me come with you." The pheasant cut in. "No hand can see what wings can see. I can fly. I can call. I can guard from above." Voices rose. The dog growled again. The monkey mocked. The bird snapped back. Their noise filled the trees. Momotaro stood quiet. He let the noise pass until it slowed. Then he spoke one short rule. His voice was calm. "If you fight each other, you cannot walk with me. The first to quarrel again will not remain. If you come, you walk in peace." The dog lowered its growl. The rivals stilled. Pride still burned in their eyes, but the boy's words had laid down a line. Momotaro untied his belt and brought out 2 cakes. He held one in each hand. These were the same cakes his mother had made with care. They were not prizes. They were bonds. He gave half to the monkey, half to the pheasant. The monkey's hands closed quick around his piece. The pheasant took his more slow. Both chewed in silence. The sweet millet taste was the same for each. It joined their tongues to the same source, the hand of the old woman. In old tales, this act was known. To share food was a vow. It meant more than filling the stomach. It meant trust and the will to stand side by side. So even here, under trees and sky, the meaning was kept. The monkey's grin faded. The pheasant's glare eased. They stood quiet, no longer eager to trade words. The boy had not forced them. He had given them away. He had shown clear ground. He did not rule with chain or fear. He gave them a place in a band that asked for peace first. One rule only: no quarrels on this road. At last, the monkey bent its head. The pheasant lifted its wings in sign of calm. The dog stood silent. The group was four now, joined by food and word. Momotaro did not reward tricks or pride. He shaped a bond. He gave each a place. In the Ozaki telling, he set them into order. The dog walked first with a flag, nose to the road. The monkey held a sword at his back, light and sharp in nimble hands. The pheasant took watch from the sky, wings spread wide. Each had role. Each bore duty. So their march began more steady now. The dog strode ahead, ears high and tail still. The monkey leapt and ran, no longer to boast, but to serve. The pheasant scanned from high above, its cry loud, but no more aimed at rivals. Momotaro walked in the midst with calm eyes, his belt now lighter where the cakes had been used. The clash of first words was past. What had begun with noise had grown into order. Harmony had been hard to start, yet with one rule, one meal, and one voice, it was shaped. Even beasts that fought by nature could settle to one step when the way was clear. Their walk through the wood rang now with rhythm, not quarrel. 4 lives tread one line, each one in place, bound by the same vow. The monkey, once sly, moved sure. The pheasant, once proud, circled above in watch, not scorn. The dog, once bared with growl, padded calm. The boy held no weapon yet, but still he led. He commanded not with blows, but with fairness. He showed them what each might be, not alone, but as part of all. Day by day their stride gained trust. The monkey tested less with tricks. The bird gave fewer sharp cries. The dog trotted steady, proud to scout ahead. Their bond was still new, but it held. The tale shows in this moment not only beasts, but people as well. Peace is not made by pushing one down. It is made by clear word, a fair share, and one cause larger than pride. They stepped out from shade into light. The forest thinned. The ground grew more clear and the air more wide. The cakes had done their work. The bond was now in place. They had begun as 1, then 2, then 4, each joined not by blood, but by choice and vow. Now they walked forward as a band, not as rivals, not as beasts split by feud. Ahead, the ground changed. The wind grew sharp. The air carried a new smell. Sand mixed with soil. The sound of waves pressed faint against the air. They went on, eyes set ahead. 4 shadows stretched long on the dirt. The horizon now shifted. The line of land was ending. Something larger was waiting before them. They had not yet seen it, but they could feel it. The road would soon meet a place wide and deep, something no field or wood could match. It would be their next test together. They came to the shore and saw water reach out to the edge of sight. The sea stretched in calm lines, blue sky above, blue waves below. For the dog, the monkey, and the pheasant, it was all new. None of them had known a world that rolled and moved without end. Even Momotaro, who was steady in all things, paused to watch the wide sea with quiet eyes. A small boat was waiting. Its wood was plain and tied firm with rope. A single sail stood tall, ready to catch the wind. Momotaro stepped inside, sure of his place. The dog set one paw down with care, muscles tight at the smell of salt. The monkey jumped in, quick as always, though his hands gripped hard to hold steady. The pheasant flew above and then settled at the bow, wings spread sure against the breeze. The boat pushed free from land and slid gently into the waves. At first, the sea was kind. The wind blew from behind, and the water lifted them smooth and slow. The boards creaked, but did not break. The shore behind grew small. Hills faded, the fields were gone, and soon only water lived around them. The sea looked full without end, not a road, not a hill, but a wide plain of moving blue. The four were quiet. They did not speak at once. The monkey's smile seemed tight, his eyes darting side to side. The dog lay low, legs spread to hold firm, nose against the wooden planks. The pheasant leaned forward with wings half raised, as if ready to lift away if the sea rose too high. Only Momotaro sat still. His hand held the rope. His back was straight, and his breath came calm. They all looked at him, and his calm gave them ground to rest on. Time passed, and the boat swayed with each wave. No storm came, yet the water moved under them in ways they had never known. The monkey tried to laugh at it, saying the sea danced more wild than any tree. He stood to show his balance, but slipped and fell. The dog barked and caught him. Even the pheasant gave a sharp call, half scold and half cheer. Laughter soon rose, and their fear eased. With the silence broken, they filled the hours with talk. The monkey told stories of tricks in the forest and how he once fooled a farmer. The dog spoke of hunts and long nights keeping guard. The pheasant boasted of his cry that could ring from one village to another. Momotaro listened, smiling, and sometimes joined with a laugh of his own. The sound of stories was steady like the tide. To pass the time, they made games. The monkey hid a biscuit in his hand and dared the dog to guess. The pheasant called out each fish that broke the waves, asking who had seen it first. The dog growled playfully when he lost, and their laughter carried in the salt air. Games and talk made the sea less strange. The ocean was wide, but joy found a place even on a small boat. Though they grew close, the sea still gave weight to their hearts. In old thought, the northeast was not just a line on a map. It was the path where demons lived, the place of threat and shadow. To sail in that way was to travel toward danger itself. The sea in this sense was not only water, it was the road to the Oni. Though none had yet seen a horned face, the meaning pressed on them with each mile, yet still no one turned back. Night came with a sky full of stars. The moon laid a thin path of light across the waves. They sat close, shoulder to fur, fur to feather. The dog's warmth kept them steady. The monkey leaned back, staring at the stars with a child's wonder. The pheasant folded his wings and tucked his head in rest. Momotaro stayed watch, but his face was calm, easing their dreams in the dark. When dawn came, the sea shone red with early light. They had crossed more than water in those hours. They had crossed into a family of their own. The dog now moved to shield when a wave struck sharp. The monkey's quick hands fixed rope when it slipped in spray. The pheasant cast his wings to guard the sail when the wind pulled too hard. Momotaro spoke no orders, yet they each knew their part. They worked as one without thought, without question. The sea was not their foe. Its waves had shaken them, yet also joined them. Each sway had taught them to lean close. Each sound of water had carried them into trust. What had begun as a test now felt like a gift. The ocean bore them safe, with no storm, as though it too wished to see them through. At first the horizon was bare. Then, in the far line, a dark shape grew. It rose slow out of the haze, sharp against the calm water. Black rock broke the sky, its edges hard and high. The island was ahead. No banner flew there. No open arms waited. The air seemed still, the shape quiet yet heavy. They watched in silence as it drew near, each heart knowing the sea had carried them to the place of demons. This was the island's stronghold. The boat slid on, waves soft under its frame. The time for sea was ending. Before them lay stone and shadow. The island was straight ahead, waiting for what must come next. The island rose close, its shape hard against the sky. Dark stone stretched in high walls, and an iron gate cut through their center. The air shifted, thicker than on the sea, as if the land itself did not want them to come near. The walls stood taller than any tree behind them, and the iron bars shone dim under the light. Unlike the wide sky and water they had crossed, this place felt made to keep them out. The band of four stopped at the foot of the walls. The dog's growl rumbled low in his chest. The monkey's eyes darted, quick over each crack and line. The pheasant beat his wings once, sharp, as though testing the air. Momotaro stayed still, his face steady. His road had brought him here. He would not turn back. It was the pheasant who moved first. With one strong flap, he rose into air. He circled once above his friends, then climbed higher. His wings caught the light as he lifted above the gate. From that height he let out a cry. It was clear, sharp, and bold. The call rang over the stone. It flew across the roof and echoed down the gaps in the wall. It was no soft note. It was a proud voice that told the Oni inside that new strength had come to their door. His cry was not just for the ones hidden behind bars. It was also for the dog, the monkey, and the boy waiting below. His sound told them the fight had begun, and they were not alone. At once there came an answer. From beyond the iron bars came noise, deep and rough. Heavy feet shook against stone. Laughter rose in bursts, then roars, and then clangs of metal as hands struck the gate. The whole wall seemed to hum with the weight of many lives. The Oni stood within, and they had heard. Dark shapes shifted in the gaps. Horns curved above the edge. Fierce eyes glowed in narrow slits. They called out, their voices thick with mock. They told the bird he was small. They told the boy he was foolish to bring beasts to a fortress. Low roars rolled and knife-like words cut the air. Yet the pheasant did not bend. He called again, sharper this time. His wings spread wide and he swooped low over the gate before rising again to the roof. His words were plain. He named them cowards for hiding behind stone. He said they would no longer raid in safety. He spoke the name of Momotarō, clear on each breath. Each word poked their pride like a thorn. The Oni grew restless. Their laughter broke and thinned. Their eyes burned red with shame. Their hands struck the bars harder. Their mouths curled with rage. The pheasant's voice, small against their sound, still carried weight they could not shake. His clear tone took root where weapons could not reach. The dog barked once, sharp in answer. The monkey hissed, baring his teeth though he had not been struck. And still Momotaro stood still. His hand brushed the cold iron as he stepped forward. His voice was calm, no louder than needed. He said they had come for truth, and the Oni would face them soon inside or out. In that moment, sound became more than warning. The pheasant's cry had bent the wall of pride that guarded the gate. The Oni no longer laughed in full voice. Their scorn thinned, their rage pulled tight, and shame pricked deeper than iron. A bird, with only voice and wings, had struck the first blow. Birds often carry two worlds in tail, the high sky and the ground below. They see what others cannot. They bring words from far to near. So it was here. The pheasant became word and wing both, a bridge from outside to in. His cry reached where stone thought to stand firm. The gate stayed closed. The walls stood high, and the shadows inside grew. Yet the air had changed. It was no longer firm with scorn, but loosened by doubt. Words had cracked the first line of guard before any sword or paw was raised. Momotaro knew this was the beginning. His plan was not to break the wall with force at once, but to test where pride would fail. The cry of his bird had found that seam. Now the true test lay beyond. The boy looked at his friends one by one. The dog's growl was steady now, no longer born of fear but of will. The monkey's tail curled, ready, his eyes sharp but clear. Above, the pheasant circled slow, his wings folding and stretching with care. Together, they stood at the edge of dark stone and iron, their bond stronger for what pride they had shaken. Still, the way was not plain. The iron stood high and the gates stayed locked. Strength would not be enough. To enter, they would need something smaller, something hidden, a way less seen but still true. The air hushed. Stone loomed above. The path to the heart of the fortress was not yet found. They waited in silence, each thought turning to what lay behind those walls. How could the strong gate be passed? How might the first opening be made? That thought weighed on Momotaro most of all, as he placed his hand on the hard stone and bent closer, searching. Sometimes the smallest sign can open the hardest place. And in this moment, at the edge of the gate, that hope was all they held. By the wall of stone, when all seemed shut, a sound came. It was soft, not from the gate, but from the side. Two maidens knelt by a stream that ran near the fortress. They washed clothes in the water, their hands pale under the moonlight. When they saw Momotaro and his band waiting, they raised their eyes with hope. They whispered quickly, warning of the gate's strength. Then they gave a gift far greater than steel. They told him of a back door, small and hidden, laid at the base of the wall where stone met earth. Few knew it was there. It was not large, but it was enough. The boy leaned close to listen, and the words of the maidens were clear. He nodded once, his face calm. He thanked them, and their eyes shone with a light not seen for many years. They pointed the way, then bent back to their work, quiet as wind in grass. Their part was done. The rest was his. The band searched as the maidens had said. Moss grew thick and dark at the root of the wall. Dirt closed the base in knots of grass and stone. The dog sniffed. The monkey pressed his hands along every crack. The pheasant tipped his beak to the ground. At last, their eyes found it. A narrow mark, no wider than a hand, traced a line where earth and wall did not meet. Behind it lay a door, small, near lost in shadow, but still a way through. The monkey tried first. His body was lean, and he slipped down close to the ground. He pressed his hands forward and wriggled his frame into the dark. The dog went next, claws pulling at the soil as he moved through. The pheasant tucked his wings and followed, feather tips brushing stone. Last came Momotaro. He bent to his knees, placed his hands to earth, and went low. No strength could widen the way. No pride could walk upright here. Each step inside meant stillness and care. They bowed their bodies. They moved like shadows, one after another. The door was not built for show. It was built for secrets. The way called for patience, not pride. Within, the dark grew thick. The air smelled of ash and torch smoke. A glow quivered on walls cut rough. They could hear voices deeper inside. The floor was stone, hard under hand and paw. Yet still they pressed forward, moving with care, their bond unbroken in the crawl. The hidden line opened, and they rose at last inside. The hall was wide and dim. Torches flicked on every wall, their flames sharp against the air. Oni walked in that space, horns lit by fire, yet none had turned to see what crept from the small place. Momotaro stood to full height. His body held marks of dirt, but his eyes set sure. The beasts came beside him, silent still, ready for what waited. The first clash came soon. The dog leapt forward, his teeth bright against their ankles, driving foes to stumble. The monkey swung overhead, his quick hands pulling ropes and striking blows that broke lines apart. Above, the pheasant darted in flares, his wings blinding eyes and his sharp cries cutting through the hall. In the middle, Momotaro struck with calm strength, his hand and blade finding each gap with care. They did not fight as four apart. Each held to place, each act turned to help the next. The dog's bite left an Oni low. The monkey's strike fell on his half-turned back. The pheasant's wings blocked sight and gave the boy a path. Together, their circle closed, their bond made tight. The Oni roared, but for all their size they bent. They had thought the iron gate their guard. They had thought their wall their shield. Yet it was pride alone they had built. Against a boy and beasts in shared trust, stone and iron were nothing. One by one the horned shapes broke. Some fled deeper into the halls. Some fell to the ground in fear. The cries of scorn that had filled the air at the gate now turned to shouts of alarm. The band pressed forward, not with cruelty but with steady force. The hall grew still. The strength of Oni seemed lesser now. Their pride cracked where unity struck. The dog stood tall, chest full with breath. The monkey wiped dust from his hands, eyes still bright. The pheasant folded his wings, his call still ringing in the stone. Momotaro held his ground, his chest strong, his gaze forward. The smallest of doors had opened into the widest of fights. The low crawl had brought them high within. To bow down had become the road to rise up. What looked narrow was greater than the iron gate. The maidens had spoken truth. Humble entry had led to clear victory. But silence did not mean peace. Not all had broken. In the far reach of the hall, a shape stood, a shadow taller than the rest, unmoved by loss. Horns glowed in the light of flame. His breath came slow, and his feet did not shift. The clash was not yet done. The chief had not yet stepped forth. His pride filled the chamber before his body did. The air grew heavy as they turned their eyes toward him. There was still one who had not bent, and his test would weigh more than iron or stone. The Oni chief stood in the glow of the torches. His horns caught the light, sharp and tall above his head. His chest was broad, his eyes hard, and his voice shook the hall. For the band of four, this was the last foe. The boy who came from a peach now faced the ruler of demons, one who held pride as deep as stone. The dog stood ready, teeth bare. The monkey moved quick above the beams. The pheasant circled near, his wings tight against his sides. Momotaro stood before them, his step firm, his gaze calm. The hall grew quiet but for the sound of breath. The chief raised his iron club. It struck the stone floor with a crash. Dust filled the air. Yet the boy and his friends did not turn back. They met him together. The dog leapt at his side and pulled. The monkey struck down sharp from above. The pheasant cried into his ears. Momotaro raised his blade. That was the fight. Short and sharp. No more need be said. At last the chief stumbled. His arms dropped. His club rolled away across the floor. His breath was heavy now. His voice no longer proud. Where he once stood tall, he now bent low. For the first time, he did not roar. He gave words instead. His hands rose to his horns. They were the sign of his power. They marked him as master, as one who ruled by fear. Without them, he was less than king. All in the hall knew this truth. His fingers, rough and long, pulled at the root of each horn. With slow force, he lifted them free. They cracked as they left him, and then they fell. The horns landed at Momotaro's feet. Their weight in that hall meant far more than stone or steel. The demon bowed his head. His pride was gone. His strength was lost. His horns now lay in the dust. This was how he gave in. Without his horns, he was no threat. He would rule no more. Momotaro bent low and picked them up. He held them straight. His eyes stayed firm. He looked at the chief, who now shook in the dim light. He saw not a great demon, but a shadow with shame. In this moment, the battle was over. For the horn was more than bone. It was the sign of might, the mark of terror. Broken horns meant broken rule. Broken horns meant safety. The Oni chief did not cry out again. He stayed kneeling, his eyes set down. In some tellings, he vowed to change and serve in peace. In others, he stayed silent, with no words left. But all stories agree. The horns went first. They were the price of power, the end of pride. Momotaro turned to his friends. The dog panted but did not fear. The monkey climbed down, his quick hands now still. The pheasant folded his wings, his chest soft. Each had done their part. Each had helped bring the demon low. They stood not as beasts alone, but as a band. The hall itself seemed to sigh. The roars of demons were gone. What had been a stronghold of terror was now quiet stone. Along the walls lay all the things once stolen. Piles of silk, bright cloth, strong tools, jars of grain, baskets of gold. All of it was spread wide in the torchlight. The dog pressed his paw upon a chest, guarding it. The monkey picked up a jewel, turning it slow in his hand. The pheasant tore at cloth, laying it smooth. These were not riches for them to keep. They were gifts to return. Each piece meant a family made whole again. Momotaro spoke to the lesser Oni who still watched. He told them to return to their lives. He told them to stop their raids. He did not cut them down. His voice was strong but not cruel. To lay down the raid and give back what was taken was enough. The Oni bowed to him. They feared him, but more than fear, they saw him as true. The chief sat low, his horns now gone. He had no more pride to guard him. He no longer gave orders. Without horns, his power was nothing. The band had not just ended one foe, they had ended the root of fear itself. And so, the land beyond the sea could rest. The horns would not rise again. The cries would not reach the fields. The mark of danger was gone. What had once been a fortress of dread had been broken by a boy, a dog, a monkey, and a pheasant, each bound by food shared and words of peace. Together, they had made a place safe. Momotaro looked down at the horns in his hands. They were not trophies, they were proof. They showed that even the darkest rule could be broken, that even the proud could learn they are not beyond fall. To the villages, they would mean one thing: the danger was past, and life would be bright again. In stillness, They gathered what was right. They bound the treasure into bundles, tied it with cord, pulled it onto sled and cart. The beasts bore each load with steady step. Momotaro watched each piece with care, for none would be lost or taken for pride. All would go back where it belonged. The gate they had passed under once with fear now stood open. No more was it a barrier. It was only a path back to wide land. The sound of waves outside called them again. They left the hall behind. They left the demon broken, his horns now lost. Their steps were sure, their hands careful. At their side was not victory alone, but the proof of what true strength meant. The horns lay quiet in Momotaro's pack. The treasure lay heavy on their backs. Ahead waited the road away from islands and stone. It was the road to fields, to homes, to the place where silence had once lain. And it was toward those fields, once empty, that their path now turned. The land would not meet them with shadow, but with new light, for what was lost was now on its way home. The fields soon filled with new life again. Where once there had been raids and fear, now there were carts heavy with food and bundles of cloth. Villagers walked side by side, carrying baskets and tools back to their homes. Laughter rose from the paths, and work filled the air. What had been lost lay in plain sight once more. At the heart of it all was a small hut. The old couple who had lived so many years in quiet now opened their door to find their son returned to them. Momotaro walked inside, and they held him close. Their eyes were wet, but their joy was full. They did not count gold or silk. For them, the true treasure was his safe return. Their hut, once silent, now rang with the sound of family. Still, the chests he carried were not for one home alone. The boy opened them and gave back what the Oni had taken. Rice sacks were lifted onto waiting carts. Bright cloth was spread across tables. Grain poured into hands that needed it most. The market stalls filled again, and voices rose, not in fear, but in song and trade. Children ran in the roads, their shouts clear. Smoke rose from cooking fires, and the smell of hot meals drifted on the wind. Tools that had been lost now rang out in fields. In every small act, life returned. What had begun in sorrow ended in calm. The old couple sat at their doorway watching. They had wished only for a child, one to run in their fields and bring sound to their home. Now they saw before them a son grown tall, not only to them but to all. His steps had carried food back to the hungry. His hands had put hope back into homes. The miracle of a peach had become the blessing of peace. In later years, this tale was told to children in schools. It became more than a story of fights and demons. It showed that what was won should be given back, so that all could share in the calm. The people told and retold it so the lesson of peace would rest in young minds as softly as a lullaby. Days followed in quiet rhythm. Farmers plowed the soil without fear of raids. Women walked to the river with baskets, their voices light with new song. Children played games at the edge of fields, their laughter carrying far. The dog, the monkey, and the pheasant no longer fought for food, for their bond had proven true. And the boy who was once born from a peach had grown into a man who kept the land whole. The old couple's hut remained small, but what filled it now was light and sound. They ate together with their son. They set out bowls and poured water with steady hands. Every act felt new again, though it was the same daily life they had once feared would never return. For them it was enough. Their home was warm, and their days were no longer marked by longing. Across the land, trust was mended. Neighbors shared food side by side. Smiles passed with each greeting. The cries of fear that once filled the night were gone. In their place came the soft hum of work and song. Once more the land moved steady, like water returning to its calm flow. The gift the boy brought was more than gold. It was the peace of shared grain, the warmth of cloth over shoulders, the rest of children safe at night. His victory had not been for one house or for pride. It had been for all, and so it was felt by all. The Oni's shadow no longer touched their fields. In its place grew the sound of joy. Hands worked, hearts rested, and homes breathed again. The treasure carried back was not hoarded in a chest. It flowed from person to person like the river that once brought a peach to two waiting hands. Evening came, and families lit their lamps. The glow spread from one window to another. From far away, the village looked like stars fallen to the ground. The old couple sat with their son near the doorway, the warmth of food between them, the chatter of neighbors outside. It was simple, yet it was enough. Momotaro looked out over the quiet paths. He saw the dog resting near the hut, the monkey climbing with ease, the pheasant perched above with wings folded in calm. They had shared the road and shared the fight, and now they shared peace as well. The people often told the tale in many homes. They spoke of the journey, of the sea, of the horns laid down. But what they treasured most was the end, when food found its way back to bowls and laughter filled the huts again. This was where the story rested. A boy who came from a peach did not hold his gift for himself. He gave it back, and in that giving, the land healed. A hut was no longer silent. A home was full once more. The peace he left behind was as strong as any sword he carried. The people knew he was no child any longer. To them, he was proof that even miracles carry duty. A gift is not meant to sit in one hand. It is meant to be shared so that all who wait will rise together. And so, the land grew quiet. Fields grew green. Homes filled with sound. The treasure had been given back, and with it came calm. At last, the days were simple again, soft and true, with food to eat, hands to hold, and voices to match the rhythm of life. And in that stillness, the story turns at last. For even great battles and long roads end with peace laid plain at home. And from that peace, another thought begins to stir, waiting in the quiet to be told. The story of Momotarō begins not with battle, but with a peach on the water. From that small gift came a child, and from his life came thanks, friends, and peace. Gratitude gave him reason to act. Friendship made him brave. Unity helped him win. What matters is not his strength alone, but how he chose to share it. His path shows that even simple bonds can shape the world. Now rest easy, as light fades and the air grows still, like a river flowing slow. If you enjoyed this gentle folktale, subscribe quietly for more bedtime stories.